What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary. It's the podcast about trees and other related topics. I am one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson.
Now, Alex, I'm going to stop you right there. I want to jump right in.
Oh my God, before you even introduce yourself.
Yeah, everyone, I'm Casey. That's all you need to know.
Holy shit.
But this is a new episode, and on this episode, we have a new segment that we are going to start. We're going to do it right now. This is called Alex Candor.
Wow, Casey.
It's where Alex candidly shares some things with you, and it's very candorful.
Wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, no one saw this coming.
I'm not even me.
Well, so here's the thing, Alex. You are a man of many talents, and you have your fingers in many different pies, so to speak. Yeah. You have one's blueberry, the
also literally. Yes,
we smell it. We know it.
Mm-hmm. Oh God!
Not in a negative way. You're smelling pie. That's like the thing. It's like it's what draws the bears out of the woods. You know, as they float on the breeze. Okay.
That's why all these people are floating at my window.
Exactly.
It's not a vampire invasion.
Get out of here, you guys! Christ.
Yeah.
Don't invite them in.
Okay.
The bears either. No, so today you are going to share with us a bunch of stuff that you're getting up to.
That's right.
Because you've been doing a lot. And just this last week, I got a text message from you with a link that I've been waiting for.
Yes, Casey.
And I'm very excited. Tell us, Alex, if you could be candor. Be candor. If you could
be candorous.
Have candor.
Yes. Show candor.
Show candor.
Kate, that's right, Casey. Well, I play bass guitar in a band for an artist locally, my friend Isabeau Wyatt Walker. Mm-hmm. And we were fortunate enough, I should say Isabeau is fortunate enough to be asked to perform a KEXP live in the studio session.
Oh my God, Alex. I'm so excited. Continue.
Hold your applause. A huge honor to be even a part of in the small way that I was.
Yeah.
You know?
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. And they just released the video of the full performance.
They did. That's what I got 5 days ago. I just was so excited.
Yeah. It sounds great. And it, got a couple shots of me in there. They got my bass face in there when I was looking at the drummer, Alexander. So yes, if you want to go see that, it's in our link tree in our Instagram, or if you just go to YouTube and search for Isabeau, that's ISABEAU KEXP. You'll find it. First thing, probably.
So exciting. And you guys just put together a record, didn't you, more or less?
Yes, we recorded Isabeau's second full-length record altogether. Which she and producer Ryan Oxford are working on right now.
Nice. It's going to be incredible.
So shout out to Isabeau. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Ryan Oxford, to Eyal Alves, to Alexander Thomas, to Dan Cable, manager extraordinaire, and to myself. Why not? Alex Candor.
Yeah. This is exactly right. All right. What else have you been getting up to here?
Okay. So I also appeared on a podcast called Burn Before Reading.
Yeah.
Hosted by Christina and Leela.
Now, to be clear, this does not have George Clooney. There's no
Brad Pitt.
There's no Brad Pitt that gets shot in the head.
No. Oh my God.
Sorry, spoiler.
That is a surprise.
Yeah, it really was.
No, this is a podcast where these two delightful people have guests on, and the guest brings a very early piece of writing.
Oh.
Probably from high school or even earlier.
Okay.
And they all kind of read it and roast it.
Oh, God.
In an effort to be like, look how far we've come as writers.
That's horrifying. It's nice, but also it's got to be hard.
It was very nerve-wracking, but they made it a delight. It was not mean in any way.
No roasting.
No, not like real roasting.
Yeah.
It was just like, they were very nice to 16-year-old me because I brought in a song from my high school band, Finding Lenny.
I love that. By the way, seen Finding Lenny play.
Yes, Casey, you have. Probably at the a school barbecue that no one attended.
Or, there was a few churches I think we went to.
The Grange.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was so fun. I had a great time, and they were really, Christina and Leela were really fun to talk to, and they were, Christina, I don't know about Leela, but I know Christina's a big fan of the show.
Hi.
So shout out to her. It was a beautiful time. And if you want to find that, I'll also put a link in the link tree. But you can also go to Spotify. Hey, right after you're done listening to this episode, search for Burn Before Reading. Find my episode. It was really fun. And yeah.
This is spectacular.
It was a lovely time.
I can't wait to listen to it.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I am making a new record.
Wait, Alex, you're on someone else's podcast. You're making a new record. Aren't you also producing a record with somebody, at least a few different people, and you're writing your own?
Yeah, I'm producing a couple of records and recording a couple of records. My friend Kyle and my friend Keely. And I just went into the studio a few weeks ago for the first day of recording my first full-length
Your
LP.
personal one. You wrote this. You are doing all the music. You're doing all the instruments.
Not all of the instruments. My friend Alexander is playing drums and a few other things and singing a couple parts here and there. And then my producer, Eyal. Both of these names you will recognize from the Isabeau band.
That's perfect. Hey, use your crew, man.
Yeah, Eyal's producing and recording, and we're doing it over at his studio. It's a lovely time.
This is great.
Yeah.
When can we expect it? Do you have a date, or
gosh.
that's off the too early?
It's too early to say.
All right, but suffice to say, you'll know when we know.
I hope to have it done, not released, but done by the end of the year.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's some time. We can deal with that.
It'll be a while, but yeah, I'm really excited. This is my first full-length record, and I feel like I've grown a lot as an artist and songwriter, and I am really passionate about all these songs, and it doesn't feel like a chore. It just feels like a fun, good exercise of my artistry.
Yeah. Don't disparage yourself, Alex. You say something nice about yourself. Get out of here. All right, you guys are going to hear more about this because I'm also going to force Alex to do an interview with me for my side project, which is arbitrarypod.supercast.com.
Wow.
Wherein I interview Alex about things that he's doing in his life rather than he talking to me about trees every week. But seriously, we'll get to this. We've done it before. We'll do it again. But every time Alex finds himself in this this situation of I've done so many things, I have to say, everyone shut up. Alex, could you remind us what the hell you're getting up to when you're not producing and hosting a podcast with me?
Yeah, Casey's a great hype man and a great supporter of the arts.
Get it? Yeah. Hey, I think I am going to be going to Saw the Musical tomorrow. So,
no kidding.
Yeah, talk about arts, baby.
Wow, exciting. I can't even imagine what that is.
I don't think I'll be in the, quote, splash zone. So that's nice.
Is there really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fun. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like a Guar concert, basically.
Sure. Gallagher up in here.
Yeah, right.
That's right, Casey. That was Alex Kander. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and go check out those exciting things that I've been doing. Casey.
Yeah.
Now, I know that every week we talk about a tree.
Correct.
But I was very surprised to find out that this week we're actually talking about our first animal.
What?
The snow fox?
No, Alex, it's not the snow fox.
Because, Casey, I saw that we're covering white fur.
Oh, didn't you do this last week?
And last week I said that I'm going to repeat the joke this week. You don't remember that part?
Yeah, well, I black out.
That's right, Casey. Today we're talking white fur, finally.
That's right. We're finally getting to it. And I did a little more research, so it's not going to be quite as ad hoc as I was suggesting we did.
Sure.
But, would have lost.
It's all in good fun. If you recall, last week we flipped a coin and we ended up talking about the Alerce.
Yes.
This week, white fur, but we've got to do so after a break, and we will be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Today we are talking the white fur.
That's correct, Alex.
Casey.
Yes, sir.
Let's imagine, as we do every episode.
Okay.
The white fur, to me, let's say we're walking along in, I want to say the upper regions of the world.
All right. That narrows it down.
Maybe like southern Canada.
Oh, if that's where you want to be, that sounds great.
Okay. And we come across some white fir. Let's ID this tree.
All right, Alex. So you're looking at a tree that is a classic fir. Now, unfortunately, the tree that you're seeing is not exactly the white fir, but that's kind of what we're talking about.
Interesting.
So here's how it works. The white fir is a tree called Abies concolor. Concolor, yes.
Wow.
Now, that would be in reference to the needles. And I believe that this would have something to do with the needles having white on either side of them. So they're kind of flattened needles. They generally have a top and a bottom. So concolor, I believe, means something like with color on both sides.
Okay.
But you have white stomata lines on both sides.
That color being white.
I think so, which is kind of weird. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just what I see. I don't know.
First plot hole.
Yeah, I don't know if I can completely agree with it. But it says, the fact that both the upper and lower needle surfaces are the same color, maybe.
Okay.
So this is what it has. Regardless, it's not what's really important. We can forget about the name and just live with looking at this gorgeous, beautiful tree. Mm-hmm. Its leaves, because we're already talking about it, I think we can just discuss. They are long needles that are maybe about 1.5 to 2.5 inches long total. It's about maybe 6 centimeters or so.
It's pretty long.
It's pretty long. It's very nice. They're lovely needles, and they tend, and I'm going to describe broadly here. So just stick with me.
Okay.
So the needles will come out and they will curve upwards from the twig.
Okay.
So they won't just be completely flat and they won't be all going forward. Mm-hmm. They'll all be pointing up.
Yeah, they have kind of a bull's horn shape on either side.
And you can see some that are very two-ranked where they go to the left and to the right and then they go whoop up like Dolly's mustache a little bit. And then
I was
love
like
that?
Dolly Parton's mustache.
Okay, yeah.
And it took me a second.
Sorry.
But I like where you're going.
I didn't think she had a mustache. Yes, sorry. This is DALI.
Of course.
So the other ones, they'll have like all the needles just kind of go upward, so it looks like an upside down brush almost.
The other ones.
There's just stick with me.
Yeah.
Stick with me.
I like what you're setting up. The vibe is weird.
Yeah, cool, baby. That's what I like. So these trees generally, that's how you can kind of tell the difference. And all their needles are going to be the same size, more or less. And I say that to contrast it with the grand fir, which looks very similar. But the grand fir has green on the top. Mm-hmm. It has white stomatal lines that are very obvious on the bottom. Whereas the white fir, Abies concolor, tends to have kind of diffuse bloom on all sides. So you don't see those exact bands necessarily. You more see, there's basically this white kind of just diffuse color on the top and the bottom.
Kind of like a general coating almost.
Yeah, precisely.
Instead of like the white marker lines.
Yeah.
What was the last one we talked about?
Oh, yeah, that was the LRC. Yeah, LRC.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, precisely. It's not quite as like obvious and distinct. But that is a great way to tell these two trees apart.
Okay.
The other thing is that grand fir has needles that are what they call sawtooth shape. Kind of thought this was fun because I didn't know about this till I did some research on it.
Interesting.
And the needles are long and then short and then long and then short and then long and then short.
Wow.
And then short. I had no idea, but I looked at a bunch of pictures and I went out and looked at trees. I'm like, well, sure enough. They alternate in lengths, and they're maybe only a millimeter or two different. Like They're not giantly small or long, but they're just enough and just consistent enough that you can compare that to a very closely related and similar looking tree, the white fir, and you can tell them apart really quick.
And the white fir has pretty consistently lengthed needles.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. Cool.
Yeah, so that's just a quick thing, but again, hold tight. That's what the needles look like.
Read the needles before we move on.
Yes. Oh, no. Yeah. Just sorry. Yes. Continue.
Read the needles.
I did not understand what you said.
So read the needles before we move on. Just read the needles.
For everyone over 30, that means regarding the needles as if you are in an email.
Friendly fir, are these soft, friendly needles?
They are very soft.
Okay.
Yeah. Even have a little teeny tiny notch rather than a point at the tip.
Interesting.
But generally, it will be absent or very, very, very small.
Okay.
Another thing that tells it apart from the grand fir, which has a more distinctive notch.
Okay.
Anyway, So that is what these needles look like. Now you're saying, well, great, we jumped right into the needles. Now let's take a step back.
Wow.
This is a tree that grows in a very normal kind of fir-like fashion. If you see it in the woods, in the native habitat, it's going to grow with a straight, perfectly central trunk and this nice pyramidal canopy on either side.
Yes.
And it's going to have greenish to bluish kind of tinged foliage. Again, all aiming upwards, so it looks very layered. And like most true firs, they're very regimented. So they don't kind of just put out branches and random buds and it's kind of spiral and it kind of looks weird. They grow up and out, up and out, up and out, pop, 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 pop.
They appreciate order.
They do. That is a very fir thing, ironically, for what we're going to be talking about today. So that is the kind of general form that you could expect. But if you find one growing like in your front yard, if you're out here in the Pacific Northwest, anywhere in the West, they actually tend to get very rounded in the top because they can often grow when wide open. They have like little branches or offshoots or new stems that kind of vie for dominance.
Oh, sure.
So they can kind of develop at the top this weird kind of flat-topped, rounded canopy with these kind of skirted big branches at the base.
Kind of the penthouse up there.
Yeah.
Everybody's vying for the
where
highest
the eagles
spot.
chill, that kind of
sure.
thing. Yeah, it's
Where the eagles fly
beautiful, Alex. Are
on
you
a
ready?
mountain high.
Keep going with that. Keep going. Yeah.
Love lifts us up where we belong.
All right, let's bring it back down. When you activate your diaphragm, freaks me out.
Thank you.
So this is a tree, Alex, that makes cones like your true firs, which I love.
Oh,
I love
yes,
this.
of course.
They grow upright on the very top tippy branches, and they all fall apart, scale by scale by scale.
They are dehiscent.
Exactly, living that one teeny tiny axis of the cone sticking up like a spike on the very top of those branches.
Very cool.
Which freak people out also if they don't know what it is. They're like, my tree's growing weird spikes.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, it is.
There's been a transformation that used to be a cone.
Exactly. It is now just the remnants.
And a real investigator would show up and be like, well, did you notice all the cone scales on the ground?
Yeah, and they would be like, no, what are you talking about? So it's amazing.
The glass is broken from the inside.
Put your glasses on. Yeah, see, that would have been the perfect time for that. Well, it is a beautiful tree. If you look at the bark, though, Alex, this is where it kind of gets dicey.
Wow.
The bark on certain spots, certain places, looks a certain way. Sometimes it is kind of gray and flat with little blisters filled with resin. Very standard for your true firs. But then, in certain places where it grows, it will develop thick ass bark. Like fire resistant thick bark.
Like big old puzzle piece type.
No, not puzzles, like big Douglas fir style furrows.
Oh,
like
wow.
these ridges that are separated with these big, deep furrows, and they're probably an inch at least thick. Like really good sized bark that you don't want to mess with.
How does it depend on where these grow? Which type grows where, Casey?
It's a great question.
Thanks.
Now, that will lead into the next thing we're talking about.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a nice soft intro. If you are a tree and you go by the name Abies concolor, then you will probably be growing somewhere between Central Oregon, Eastern Oregon, east of the Cascades in the central area. Basically Oregon, east of the Cascades, a little bit of Idaho.
Okay.
And even then, it's dubious. As you go further south, you will be in the Sierra Nevada. In the Sierra Nevada, you will have big, thick bark that is very much fire resistant and fire dependent. No, I shouldn't say dependent, but it evolved and it basically adapted. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, it'll also potentially be like a kind of even an orange color over there. For whatever reason, a lot of the trees down there get like an orange color.
Interesting.
It's not going to be intensely orange, but it'll be just a little bit more orange than you expect.
We should get into why that is sometime.
I would love to. I've never even considered looking into it. I don't even know if it's a thing.
It's the rock.
Yeah. Anyway, I bet you're right. If you go further to the east, then you're going through Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, Colorado, Mexico, New Mexico.
Okay.
And you will have bark that's very gray, very thick, very furrowed, but also can be very thick and furrowed on small, younger trees. Whereas further north, it actually stays way more, I should say way less thick and furrowed. It kind of it's a little bit more shallow.
And it has that. Regardless of how thick the furrows are, do they have the little blisters?
Only when they're very, very young. He's getting frustrated over there.
It's like, how the fuck do I say this sentence?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think we got to do our word exercises again.
Only when they're younger. Okay.
Only when they're younger.
Okay. I feel like I need a speech pathologist today.
I know, honestly, but this is gonna be hard. We've already done a lot of recording today, so it's okay.
Thanks.
Okay. The Forester fires the friggin' frog. Yeah, that's a good one.
The Forester fires the friggin' frog.
Yeah, open your mouth. Open your mouth, Alex. So as you go north, why I say kind of. There are some taxonomists who would say that white fur doesn't really actually grow in a strict sense north of about the Klamath Mountains in Oregon and Northern California.
There's so much cryptic language around this so far. I'm very confused. Does it or does it not?
Great question, Alex. I will tell you right now, because I like sometimes just choosing that I'm going to go strictly by the law.
Yeah.
It does not.
Wow.
When it goes north of the border of Oregon. Conveniently, Oregon, like the borders, like actually match this pretty dang well, like 90% wise. Not perfect, but pretty dang good. In Oregon, everything that you would call a white fur is in fact a hybrid between white fur and grand fur.
Oh my God.
So they have this nebulous kind of interbreeding range where they are always a hybrid. So you're never going to find something that's strictly a white fur or strictly a grand fur in this central eastern Oregon swath where you can see these trees that we would normally call, that we have forever, white firs.
This is kind of like, in The Lord of the Rings, the race of men. Right? The far-reaching race.
Yeah.
They're all the way down in Gondor, but they're also all the way up in Bree, which is like on the other side of the world, essentially.
That's true.
And the men in Bree are described as being short, like shorter than. And I'm like, did they fuck hobbits?
Oh, probably.
There's some interracial breeding going on.
There's some interracial breeding.
Bree.
It always happens.
Hey, you can't spell breed without Bree, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what J.R.R. was thinking.
That's one horny dude. So what we would call the white fur in Oregon are actually kind of a hybrid.
Exactly. And you know what the name of that hybrid is?
White fur?
No, actually. There is none. There is no official name. They just call it the hybrid white grand fur.
Oh, wow.
But here's the thing. There has been a hybrid name floated that was the scientific name, which would be Abies cross Grandicolor.
Oh my God.
Isn't that great? I love that one. I just think it's so sweet.
Grandicolor. Okay, I like it.
Now, see, here's the thing. I actually had to write about this because this is right in the middle of where my tree ID guide is going to be covering.
Yes.
And because I'm such a diligent researcher, I went through and was like, okay, so what's the tree that we have growing here? And then I was like, oh, God dang it. Because it's really easy when the answer's like, it's just this one.
Yeah.
You can go through it. But this is like, well, it's kind of this one, but it's kind of that one. But we plant the grand fir and we plant the white fir. But if you find a tree that is native just growing, it's probably the hybrid between the two.
Oh, wow. A hybrid. Do hybrids normally grow natively?
Yeah, these ones do. Because this is the entire area where they are hybridizing. It's literally the state of Oregon. Everything north, which is why when you said we're in lower Canada, that's all grand fir.
Okay.
Everything on the coast, that's grand fir, strictly. And that's so along the coast from essentially Northern California all the way up through Vancouver Island, through the Rockies and everything through to the east in like Montana and Idaho. That's all true grand fir, Abies grandis.
Okay.
As soon as you go south into Oregon, there's the hybrids. As soon as you go south of that, but not along the coast, that is one variety of Abies concolor, specifically Abies concolor variety Lowiana, which used to be, they consider it a subspecies now, but it's neither here nor there. That used to be its own species, Abies Lowiana, which was the Sierra white fir.
Oh my gosh.
Everything east of the Sierras that is a white fir is Abies concolor variety concolor, the normal grand fir.
Wow.
The species variety, the type species.
Speaking of Tolkien, this is like reading the Silmarillion.
It is.
Holy
Luckily,
shit.
Go to the website and then check out our
wow.
We have a link to the fact sheet, and it shows the map very clearly of what all these places
a
are.
very handy map. It's
Yes.
got great, hey, speaking of colors, it's very well color-coded.
Exactly. Yeah. This is concolor.
Cool.
Yeah. So here you go.
That map is concolor.
So the reason that we're talking about this today,
Wow. Tell me more.
and why you said there's a lot of cryptic language, that's actually great, because this is an example of something that I kept running into talking about firs.
And that's because, Casey, you are currently writing a tree ID book.
Correct. I'm writing a tree identification book for the common trees of the greater Pacific Northwest in which these trees are covered.
Yes.
Now, luckily, I stopped at California, and I'm not doing anything further south or east of our general region. So Idaho, you're in.
Good on you.
That means that essentially in the urban area, we're dealing with, and this is, I say urban, it could be your small little town, that you very much think is rural. Great. It's just your backyard trees. It's the common ones you're going to see wherever you live.
Yeah.
Wherever you live, let's say you live in Bend, then you might plant a grand fir. You might plant a white fir. You might have a hybrid grand white fir growing, which I should add, in my book I have an entire little chapter about this, and I gave a fun name. You want to know what my little side is for this?
I'd love to.
Hybrid Theory.
Very good.
Yeah, named after the fantastic album by The Linkin Park.
Okay, well, I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Yeah.
I just thought it was a nice little name.
Oh, dang it. Yeah, I
Well-
think it's like the Linkin Park album that everyone knows about.
Hybrid Theory?
I think that's the name of
Okay.
it. Anyway, that's what I was going for.
Well, now I love it.
So
I liked it before, though, too, also.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex. Well, so I needed to, I basically was like, well, if no one else has come up with a name, I'm going to come up with one. And because it's neither grand nor white, I'm calling it the fine gray fir. So I hope you like it.
Gandalf the Grey Fir.
Yeah, right? Thank you. Yeah, it's totally it. It's neither grand nor white.
Great.
Hey, he's just an okay gray wizard.
Weird traveling firework merchant.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, cool, man. Just don't take my kids.
Don't take my kids.
I feel like that's what I'd be worried about. If there's a wizard going through town,
Totally.
I'd be like, kids, get inside. He's going to turn you into a toad or
Please,
something.
Gandalf, don't take my kids.
Yeah. That's going to be the name of like, I don't know, some Hobbit's autobiography,
Or don't take my kids.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's like Passover for the Shire.
It is, yeah, right? Gandalf is coming. It's not super exciting. It's actually more of a warning when he says it. Yeah.
Yeah. The British are coming.
The British are coming. Watch out, Gandalf. All right. So, Alex,
so silly.
back to talking about furs. This podcast is not about Lord of the Rings, no matter how much we try.
Yet.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we're still going. Mm-hmm. So this tree is a complex, which is why there's so much cryptic language about it.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to dive into, which is why I took the opportunity to say, Alex, let's talk about this, because it gives me the, let's say it officializes my random wanderings into tree stuff.
Sure.
If I just say, I'm doing this for my podcast, then I feel good about working on it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Maybe that's something that you should talk with a therapist about.
Yeah. All I do is just make excuses for what I do and say it's a part of my job. What's the problem, officer? Hey, I'm your therapist. You don't need to call me officer, Casey.
You're not in trouble.
So I love this idea, Alex, and I've read about it in a bunch of stuff recently. mostly things talking about fungi and things talking about bacteria or microbes that are like teeny tiny things that aren't eukaryotes necessarily. So mostly bacteria, archaea, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And the idea is that species, when you get down to that little teeny tiny level, they aren't so discrete the way we think about up here. Where you have ponderosa pine. Remember we did that whole episode where they split ponderosa pine up into multiple different species?
Yes.
That's kind of this idea, but also kind of not at the same time.
Okay.
Because in microbes like E. coli, for instance, there is E. coli in your gut right now. Like it's one of the most important gut biome constituents that we have.
Okay.
It also lives in water and ponds. It lives in the soil all over the place. And it also lives and causes pathogen, or is a pathogenic organism for humans. So that's whenever they're like, oh, we're recalling all of these soybean because they're covered in E. coli.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, isn't E. coli everywhere all the time anyway?
That must mean that there are different kinds.
Exactly. But they're all one species.
Oh.
So there's different, quote, strains of it.
I see.
And this is a thing where they can actually be like they can have different genes between these different strains by like huge percentages, like way over 30%. You'd be like, well, those genes are so significantly different than these genes that for all intents and purposes, they're different species, but they're the same species, just turning on and turning off different genes, and then that makes them act a different way.
That would be like calling Homo sapien and chimpanzees different strains.
Yeah, of primates.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is the thing. They are better at being different species because we cannot interbreed with other primates. Alex gives me the quick like, well, do we know this? I have to say, Alex, I'm pretty sure someone out there knows it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We don't need to get into it.
Moving on.
So but with the species complex idea, let me give you another example in Armillaria, where Armillaria is a specific fungus. We call it the honey fungus. It's the big, humongous fungus in Eastern Oregon that grows in a big, giant fairy ring, kills trees. It's a pathogenic fungi.
Honey fungus?
Yes, yeah. Armillaria is the scientific name. Now, there's a bunch of different species to the point where we initially said, there's Armillaria. It attacks all these different trees. Then people started saying, well, actually, the Armillaria that attacks this tree is this one. The Armillaria that attacks this tree is this one, and like different species. So one, what we thought was a species was split into many different species.
Wow.
Then they said, well, these aren't really that different. So they kind of became this Armillaria complex of species.
Complex.
Exactly. There's that word again.
Oh, earlier when you said a complex, you weren't misspeaking. I thought you were saying it is complex.
Oh,
but you maybe just flubbed and said it is a complex.
Yes, I see. Sorry, I might have gotten the wrong impression with my emphasis.
No, that's okay. But it is a complex is like a species that is like divided.
Yes, it's a species that is almost like a super species.
Wow.
With different strains of other sort of species underneath.
Okay.
So the Armillaria that is attacking the trees in Malheur County is different than the Armillaria that attacks different species of trees in a different county.
Interesting.
They're almost basically the same species, but they have different genetics that do different things, and they don't cross over. So it would be like a vegetarian and a meat eater. Now, they're the same species, but that one is 100% specialized in eating meat. That one's 100% specialized in eating vegetarian. They can't even go to the other side without turning on different genes. So it's maybe conceivable, maybe it's possible, but it's this weird new idea that is popping up all over biology because what we thought when we first started organizing things and thought it was really easy. We're like, great, plant A, plant B, animal A, animal B.
Yeah.
We can do this forever.
Yeah.
We started looking into it. We started adding in genetics and we're like, okay, well, it turns out the one species, ponderosa pine, that we thought was just one, it wasn't. So then we've done this with grand fir, with white fir. We've done it with a bunch of different things and we're finding, Alex, that there are species complexes with frogs, with tropical trees,
Wow.
with butterflies, with all sorts of different things. And they are, there's this other term that's called cryptic species, where they're not quite a species complex, but it would be like you and me look exactly the same. But when you do the genetics, we're so different that it's like, whoa. These are two different species that have just, for whatever reason, evolved to look precisely the same.
How is so? What is this phenomenon called?
It is. There's not really a phenomenon.
Complex species.
It's just this new term that's more broad. So
Okay.
it doesn't quite describe things as like, here it is, X, Y, black and white.
Sure.
It's more like, these are more like a species complex.
XA and XB.
Yes, exactly. Well,
Okay.
well said. That's perfectly said.
But it's called complex, species complex.
Yeah. It would be
Okay.
this, our white fur here, which
Yeah.
we'll get into in just a second, is a species complex of other furs.
So how is this different from like subspecies or hybridization?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is why I wanted to talk about this particular tree.
I did it again.
You did it again. You're friggin' perfect.
That is the second time you've said friggin' today.
Yeah,
and
I
I
had
believe
a-
the second time I've ever heard you say friggin'.
I know, it's because I'm having a good time. The first time I said it, I had such a good time. I was like, get it in one more time, guys.
It is fun. It's like
Yeah.
you feel like you're getting away with something.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic because I used to say friggin' when I was going to say fucking.
Yeah.
And I would be like, fucking.
What
So
were
now
we
we can
doing
just
last
go
night?
back.
We were friggin'.
We were friggin', man. So this tree used to be 3 different species. It was the grand fir, it was Abies concolor, and it was Abies lowiana. That would be the grand fir, it would be the Sierra white fir, and the Rocky Mountain white fir.
Oh.
They then said, well, these are actually one species of white fir that have more of these changes over here and more of these changes over here.
Okay.
And they can, find different populations, and they can say, well, this one's a little bit different than that. And they found like 5. So there's 5 more or less distinct population units across the West.
That are all essentially the same species.
They're
of
all
tree.
essentially the same species, yeah.
Okay.
Except some have flatter needles, some have needles that are more upright, some have needles that are more gray, some that are more green, some has thicker bark, some bark is smaller. Like there's all these little morphological differences that make you think, okay, maybe these are different species, but the genes and the genetics and everything else we're looking at, it's like, well, they also just look like variations on one theme, which is white fur, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Then you go north, and they all hybridize with grand fir. And you go further north and west, that is the grand fir. It's only up there in that region.
Yeah.
No white fir whatsoever. But as you go further south, they intergress and they start to interbreed. And you go further south and they split up into multiple different maybe pseudo species and that kind of thing. And that is why it is considered a complex with grand fir. Similar to the jack pine on the East Coast and lodgepole pine on the West, where they barely intersect up in far northern Canada, and I think maybe actually kind of southern Canada too. Where they cross over, they hybridize and they create this middle of the road kind of thing.
Is this also similar to like shore pine and what is it? Not lodgepole.
Yeah.
Lodgepole pine.
But see, that's the thing. It's the same idea with the jack pine. Those are all that part of that complex. So as soon as you go from lodgepole pine in the west south, it then splits into like 4 different subspecies.
Oh my God.
Up to 5 if you include the Bali pine or whatever it is, which is like this weird one that grows only on the coast in like strange bogs.
Wow.
I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it starts with a B. Bolander. It's the Bolander pine.
Okay.
So it turns out though, Alex, this is actually a fur thing. Like firs love to do this.
It's a fur thing.
It's a fur thing. Yeah, that's what they all say to pine when they don't get invited to this, complex, Yeah.
I'd love to invite you. Honestly, it's kind of a fur thing.
It's kind of a fur thing. Anyway, later. So they do this. That's like this interesting thing about the species and then the genre, the genus of fir itself.
Yeah.
You will find this with the noble fir and the red fir. Red fir grows in the Sierra Nevada, in central and then southern California. As you go north towards the noble fur, it starts to interbreed where their ranges overlap.
Yeah.
And you get the Shasta red fur. Then as you go north, you get the noble fur strictly. So it's the same exact pattern that we see with the grand fur.
It's almost like a gradient. Like,
yeah,
you can't really see the colors change. Is this what I'm meaning to say? You can't really see the colors change, but like, you know that the red over here is different than the orange way over here.
Precisely.
Can I just ask, Casey, unless you need to go into something immediately?
I just have one more example because, they're always good.
Sure.
It's the subalpine fur.
Subalpine, yeah, with the it's part of this whole thing, huh?
No. Well said, Alex. Good job.
Clearly have not been paying attention.
Yes, well, no. So it's actually, there is no other species because they had them split up. There was Abies lasiocarpa, there was Abies arizonica, and there was Abies bifolia. And instead of going the way of the ponderosa pine, they did the opposite. And they said, nope, these are all one species, Abies lasiocarpa, which is a type species identified in Mount Hood, by the way. Just so
How about that?
Then all the rest, wherever you go, south to the west, south, then you are getting two different subspecies.
Wow.
So those all...
The taxonomy police are coming for you, Casey.
No. Oh, guys, hide me. Is there something I can hide in? Give me a crowd. It just turns out, Alex, that there's just with all furs, and they just love to do this, they are almost so flexible in who they are.
Yeah.
That, like you said, on
beautiful.
this gradient, you're like, okay, well, when I'm over here, it looks like this. When I'm over here, it looks like that. Maybe they're on their way to speciation, but who knows? Like they look like they're not because they have had that opportunity.
They're just sort of species fluid, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It really does.
I'm trying to think of a pun. Maybe later.
You'll get there.
That's really interesting, Casey. I guess my instinct when you're describing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And all of these, anytime you bring up like a big, like not scandal, but some sort of like new thing that's happening in taxonomy.
Uh-huh.
Like, they're actually saying that this species is now a subspecies of this species, and actually that species over there is actually 7 different species. In my head, I can't help but be like, well, this is not a sustainable solution.
Yeah, it's
like,
not.
Can you guys focus and get your shit together and make one overarching rule?
Yeah.
That if you happen to start finding that this species is actually 10 other species,
here's how you handle
just nip it in the bud and go to the rule book.
Yeah. Just go fire that person. Be like, you are now a computer engineer. You need to leave the biology lab, and that's it.
So my instinct is to be like, this is nonsense, right?
See, I
want to make eye contact with you across the room and be like, am I fucking crazy? This is insane.
He's not even saying anything. I can just see it in his eyes.
He wants to go home.
I think, Alex, are on to it.
Okay.
But that is, I think, the thing that is frustrating, where the answer that I think you're probably going to get is there can't be a hard and fast rule. Because the more you look, the more it becomes nebulous as to where to draw the line. And so we've talked about that lots of different times. The reason that I think it's different this time is that nobody's saying, okay, here's the answer, and I'm going to draw the line here, and everyone's going to agree. Because people aren't quite agreeing. And now they're just saying they're going the way of this other biological thing where we talk about our bacteria being different strains.
Right.
And now we're bringing that up and saying, well, maybe the big life around us, not just these teeny tiny bacteria that reproduce in a completely different way. So in some instances, it's a little bit apples and oranges, or more like apples and spaceships. It is a bit of a new age idea, it seems to me, where the old-fashioned taxonomists, the old-fashioned scientists, the stodgy old white guys smoking their cigarettes would say, well, here's species A and here's species B, and that's that. Now, I think biologists are saying, well, I don't think we can put things quite in a box the way we wish we could. It would be great, but it's just infeasible because when we do the actual science and we look at the evidence, these things seem like they're just a gradient. Yeah, up there you have that kind of white fur.
Yeah.
Over here we got this kind of white fur. where's the line? Like you said, where does it transition and turn from A to B?
Yeah.
They can do the studies and they can say, well, it generally has this. Like, for instance, the white fur generally splits itself along the Colorado River, which has been causing a tussle in that part of the world.
Wow.
Let's say a rift between East and West for like 13 million years. So that whole area has been uninhabitable for these species of fur for that long. So they've been on either side. So you can say, okay, yeah, they were split up by this geologic thing. Give it another 13 million years, there's going to be a very distinctive species A and a distinctive species B. Maybe. But there could also just be one side and the other side, and then when they meet in the north, they're partying the whole time. They never stopped. And then their genes slowly but surely are flowing through each other, but it takes, thousands and thousands of years for those things to kind of ripple through the population.
I say this as somebody who really doesn't know anything about it. So I just want to
just preface it with
hand
that.
you this giant grain of salt to go along with my statement.
Thank you. I'm going to hold this up and lick it because I really do like salt sometimes.
Pink Himalayan salt lamp sized.
I just hope there's not a hunter out here.
You're like, oh, it's hard to draw a line. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but then they're drawing many, many smaller lines. And so that kind of brings me to like, well, why is any of this important? As I've said before, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But I guess, is the whole thing just like communication? Like,
yeah.
Do we spend so much time figuring out what to call these things so that we can communicate to other people about these things?
That's a really good question.
It's like a circular sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and recall, again, during that Ponderosa Pine, there was a quote from an old taxonomist who said, it is more responsible for us to do the work and accept that there is variation because we're seeing a more richer and fuller and accurate display of what's in front of us. We understand things more correctly, I think is what they would argue. Meanwhile, with this situation, I think it has to do with a couple more real life situations. Namely, we know about genetics now, and we know how important they can be. And we know that if there is a genetic population down in one spot, the things that we see that tree is doing are certain genes being displayed or being turned on or turned off that make that tree better adapted for that location and that climate, that whatever it is. Then as you go north, some of those genes are turned off, some are turned on, some have completely gone away, and others are new from different populations or different areas. So as the climate is changing, we're understanding a little bit more, well, it turns out we might need to know that this variety or this species or the left-hand side of this complex is probably going to be more important for the future of our forests as everything changes to be more like what they are already used to.
Okay.
Does that make kind of a little bit of sense?
I think so. So it's more for it is for communication, but also for like preservation.
Yeah, to know what it is that is going to change and being able to kind of predict it.
Okay.
And say, okay, it looks like we need to protect these trees over here because they are genetically different. They're a part of this other group, so we can take some of their genes and add it into these trees over here, interbreed like that, and see if there's a difference or something along those lines.
Okay, that makes sense. I also want to say, like, I am, I'm like, to a certain extent, I play like a character on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Of like who cares, this is stupid.
Oh, wow.
But I do.
Just when I thought it was real.
My finest role yet. But I do think that like knowledge for knowledge's sake is totally worthy.
Yeah, right? I think so too.
So I'm not like a total curmudgeon.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting idea. And I think that it is, over the next couple hundred years, probably going to be the more correct way for people to look and identify different populations and plants and understand how nature works. Just as right now, we're really grappling with the idea that competition is not always the driving force, which is such a modern, like, American or Western idea of like, well, in order to succeed, they're probably competing. And then, yeah, that makes sense, but it can only go so far.
Sure.
Now we're saying, well, actually, it turns out cooperation and like making friendships and deals and giving a little and taking a little has made plants better at competing. So if they are competing but also cooperating, again, where do we draw the line? You know, these two trees are connected and sharing resources via their fungal network, but they're also competing? How does that work? So it changes our view of the forest. You know, it's not just one tree next to one other tree, et cetera, et cetera. It's a complex of trees and other organisms all connected.
Interesting, Casey.
So I think that we, over time, are going to start looking at individual species, and this will go for everything. Go to wheat. It'll go to dandelions, which a friend of mine has said, yeah, honestly, if you do the genetics, dandelions could be significantly different to the point of speciation from one lawn to the next.
Wow.
And I'm like, that is insane, but this is
Wow.
like a person who is doing his PhD looking at very particular plant things and like doing the flora of Oregon, which is such a huge undertaking.
Holy shit.
So it's like this kind of crazy this crazy idea where we have to just reinvent how we categorize things at this taxonomic scientific level
Yeah.
in order to better understand and appreciate it, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down with that. As Bob Dylan said, the times they are changing.
The times they are changing, yeah.
And the same thing is happening with people, Casey. Like, you know,
Precisely, yeah.
trans people are like at the forefront of all this stuff. Like when we start realizing that like, oh, there are so few like actual categories that aren't human made of people, you know?
Yeah.
Like most of these things are a social construct, but when you get down to it, we're just like we are all one giant goop.
Yeah, there's no specific way. Well, there has to be one species and another species.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a binary. However many species there are.
Yeah.
But with humans, yeah, it's exactly right. We're trying to get rid of this box of either you're here or you're here, and
Right.
you will not be in the middle. I think you're exactly right. We're now having this kind of this moment, and now maybe it's like spilling from one to the other. I don't
Totally,
know. Where it's like,
yeah.
well, maybe if everything is kind of actually on this weird gradient all the time, then we don't have to look at everything so black and white.
Which I think is like the one of the next big like Galileo level revelations in human understanding.
Man, you could be right.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that is a proper way to frame it, and I think it's on that level. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Where it could change exactly everything, and we have to say, well, we can't just randomly treat everything the same because that's like the world's most inaccurate way of nature, and then we'll be able to actually work with it a little bit better rather than forcing it into these boxes.
Yeah.
Just the same as we're doing with people. If we work with what everyone has, like you said, I think everyone would be happier.
Very well said, Case. Wow. What a discussion.
That was very complex.
And of course it has to come down to a score between 0 and 10, which we've got to do after the break.
Well, here's what we'll do. We'll do some nebulous thing. We don't have to put it in an exact box. It's always infinite, just so everyone knows.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just 5.2. It's 5.2, and then there's many more. We just cut it off at the hundredths level.
That's right.
'Cause beyond that, I guess it's the tenths.
Our
Sorry.
computers can only calculate so far. We got to do so after a break. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. That was our discussion of the white fir, if that is your real name. Mm-hmm. It is time to give a rating to this complex. And here's how it works. I'm going to give some final thoughts on it and give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. Casey, as our resident expert, will begin with you.
Alex, that sounds great. I appreciate the opportunity. I agree that we should be giving the complex an idea of what we think about it. And that is kind of a big undertaking because there are so many and they grow in so many different places, and that makes us have to 100% decide if we're going to include the hybrid and the grand fir, the fine gray fir or the grand fir.
Right.
I'm hoping that once I publish this book, that's going to stick. We'll see.
I think it probably will.
Well, I really like this tree. It doesn't jump out at me in a way that's like, boom, wow, that's extraordinary. Because like they don't even get that big. Let me see. I think the biggest one, Alex, in diameter, 7.5 feet, like 7.3. It's not that, it's
Diameter
good.
though?
Diameter, yeah.
That's pretty big.
It's pretty big, but it's like I think that's as much as you could say.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be like,
It's not a giant.
oh my God. Yeah. And the height, 257 feet. That's pretty cool. That's a big tree.
That's a big tree.
That's a huge tree. So they'll get up there. They'll do their jobs. I'm down with the sickness here. But whenever I see one, I always think, oh, well, a different tree could be there. And I hope that's not too negative.
No.
I think they should be planted more. I think that as an arboriculture tree, they're a stellar tree. They're beautiful. They get big. They don't get like Douglas fir big, but they're up there.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go with the fine gray fir. I think they are lovely trees. They don't jump out at me. They don't do anything great. The fact that they are a complex, I think, is really cool.
Yeah.
So whenever I see one that's different, I like to think to myself, ooh, can I collect that cone? Is that different than one I already have?
As Casey twirls his mustache.
I did. I was itching, and then I decided to twirl while I thought.
Can I collect that cone?
Yeah, so I don't know. That's I'm waffling here because I'm thinking and I'm wondering because it's not like it's going to be 7.9.
7.9.
I'm gonna give it 7.9.
Higher than I thought you were going.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. 7.9. Because I dig them. I think they're cool trees. I like to see them when I'm out, and I like to imagine like, what are you like? They're almost mysterious to a point.
Interesting.
Yeah, and some of them do hold on to their cones for a long time. I remember climbing a little guy and collecting a cone on the side of a cliff in Utah.
Why would you do that?
Well, I'm addicted to collecting cones for
Got a
jars.
fucking death wish. 7.9 golden cones of honor for the white fir.
That's right.
The fine gray fir, excuse me.
Yeah, the whole complex, I'd say.
Okay. Wow. Well, Casey, listen, I think that whole story, that fictional story.
That was a true story.
Yeah, evolution. Yeah, right.
You're a complex denier.
Complex denied. I think that's cool. I think that's fine. I'm glad that, this is like, when you see like a drum circle, you're like, wow, I would rather be anywhere else, but they look like they're having a great time. That's kind of how I feel about this whole taxonomic movement. Like, I'm really glad that you guys have that. It is so uninteresting to me.
That's so good. Wait, is he walking away? I'm in the middle of my story.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Yeah. I don't know. It's fine. I think it's great that that's happening for them. But if I am gonna rate this thing as just a tree, I honestly think firs, kind of in general, are kind of boring.
Wow. Even though they're just like one big species complex.
You ever meet somebody who is so unoffensive and friendly that they just kind of make you upset? You're like, where is your personality and what are you hiding from?
Are you a psychopath?
That type of person who's just like, hey, it's really good to meet you. Oh yeah, whatever you want, I'm down for anything.
Okay.
I'm like, well, have an opinion, god damn it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the firs.
Okay.
I think they have interesting cones, but this is not the only tree that has a cone like that, so I can't like give it that special thing.
Okay.
3.2.
Whoa, that's derogatory.
I'm sorry.
Oh man, Alex,
sorry.
I thought I could at least get you with a story here.
The story was very fascinating.
Interesting.
But the tree
Not.
bores me to death.
Wow.
I don't care about this fir.
We got to go send you out to a fir forest and just let you sit there and take it in.
I grew up in Oregon. I've seen plenty of firs.
No. They're not Douglas fir is not what I'm talking about.
Well, I know that the Douglas fir is not a fir. I've seen plenty of firs.
All right,
I grew up going up to Mount Hood to fall on my ass and cry off of the pulley system they have up there.
All right. Well, we're going to need you to go further afield than Mount Hood.
Well,
because that's where all these other firs are. So
can't I just not like it?
You can, but I also will protest. I'll protest it.
It's like somebody being like, yeah, I don't really like bowling. Well, I'm going to take you bowling.
So you learn how I like it.
That's going to help you like it.
Yes, I think it will.
3.2 golden cones of honor for this white fur. For this, I will give it the honor of calling it the fine gray fur. And giving you the honor of that.
Yes, all right. Thank you. Put that in the canon.
And those are my thoughts. That was our discussion of the white fur. We hope you enjoyed it. It is time for the Completely Arbortrary AMA. This week, we've got a question from Gabriel Pasta Houdini.
What's up, baby?
This is Gabe.
Yep, this is Gabe. I know this guy.
This is friend of the pod.
Yeah.
And a supporter of the Completely Arbortrary Treemium. And if you want to be a supporter of the Completely Arbortrary Treemium and become a Treemium member, arbitrarypod.supercast.com. And this week we have a question from Gabriel. Gabriel says, my mom's cousin lives in rural Italy, Casey.
Yes.
And has a tree of heaven invading the area just outside of their place.
Oh, that's rough.
It's supporting some lantern flies.
Yeah.
And totally harshing the vibes of their Italian plaza.
Yeah.
He's taken a pair of shears to the stem, but it just sprouts right back every year. Full kudos for resiliency.
Yes.
But how would he stop the tree from coming back next season?
Oh.
You can't dig because this is a historic Roman plaza.
God, that's insane, isn't it?
And you can't use pesticides because they're illegal in Europe.
Whoa.
That's incredible.
In that case, no options. Wow. That's really something.
Gabriel also says, also come to visit anytime. Monteluccio is a breathtaking forest and many times worth the hike. Alex, best gnocchi I've ever had.
There you go.
You've sold me.
There's good reasons to go.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a good question. And this actually really this gets to it because the lanternfly, which, are you familiar with this, Alex?
This is the insect that everybody was like really into killing.
Yes,
right?
they're beautiful. Like they're really gorgeous, like black and red spotted insects.
Yes, but there was like a viral sensation of like, kill this motherfucker.
Yeah, it's because there's like a huge infestation, I think in New York City for sure.
Yeah.
But also elsewhere. Essentially, they are drawn to their favorite food is a tree of heaven.
Oh, wow.
Which is a horrible invasive species. However, they are also a horrible invasive species.
Damn.
So if you get the opportunity, you could have a tree of heaven growing, and then you can use that almost as a bait for all these other insects.
And then light it all on fire.
And burn the shit down, yeah. You could do that. And I know people have brought that up so that they can say, hey, great, we know if they're here because we can look at this tree. And you can also like spray that tree in the United States and kill all those things. So you can kind of use it literally as a bait in a trap for these insects.
Really interesting. Wow.
So that's fine, but it's the enemy of my enemy is my enemy, maybe, or I don't know. There's some way that there's a metaphor with that.
Right.
With you using the thing that you hate to also get something you hate even worse.
To kill them both.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's Sun Tzu. He would understand.
Yeah,
it.
right. He would. So this is interesting though, because in Europe, if you can't use pesticides, because I would say if you can't dig, it's always going to come back if you keep, if you let it sprout, it'll come back. So the thing that we do in the United States is the best way is to cut it down or cut into the cambium, and you take a machete, you go chop into it, and then you take a pesticide and you squirt a pesticide in that wound. Oh. And then you do that around the tree, depending on the size of it. You do a couple hacks.
This is intravenous.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And I love it. The term is called whack and squirt.
Jesus Christ.
I love it. And now I'm sure that there is a better one. It's like sever and apply.
Sure.
I don't know. But the main idea.
Oh my God.
You gotta love it.
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty good.
You squirt it in and it goes directly into the tree.
Yeah.
Does not pass go, does not collect $200. It does not go into the rest of the soil around. It doesn't squirt up around the whole thing and then drift off elsewhere.
Doesn't leach out through the roots or anything?
No, it just kills the plant, kills the cambium, kills the roots. Problem done.
But
cut down the tree.
In the magical land of Europe, where most things are better, they don't allow pesticides.
Yes. So in that case, the best option that I can come up with, which is the best one I can come up with, which is another one I've recommended for people who don't want to do either of these other options.
Arson.
Burn it down, burn down the city, and destroy the history.
Wow.
That's your best bet. Burn it all down. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
I had once a guy who I learned how to do backpacking with, and someone said, hey, if you get poison oak on your pants, what do you do? And he's like, oh, well, you wash it twice. Then when it's done with the last wash, you take it out and burn it.
Wow.
I have not actually done that, but it was just it's exactly that. Yeah, you just destroy it, and that takes care of your problem.
That's fair.
I think the best way to do it is diligence. Cut the tree down. And then every time you see even the idea of a sprout, nip it in the bud.
Okay.
Just pop it
Literally,
off.
huh?
Literally kill it.
Yeah.
As soon as it pops out, because as soon as it starts making green, it's making energy. As soon as it's making energy, it is now refilling its coffers, which are the root system that's everywhere.
Wow.
So your job, Gabe, go to that tree, cut it down. As soon as you start seeing sprouts come back, cut those down. And do that until it runs out of energy in its roots.
Wow.
And it will not be able to sprout back, and it will die.
Like the Germans in Moscow.
Yes, just put siege around this tree. Yeah, there you go. Anything that tries to escape, capture it. It's
they couldn't handle the harsh winter. They got beaten back.
Shoot all the probe droids that come off of this this thing. I guess they're not probe droids. They're escape pods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if there's no life on board, certainly not robots.
Why are you talking about Star Wars and not World War II?
Oh, sorry. I generally like Star Wars better.
Did you jump? I guess they have a lot in similar.
Yeah,
they have a lot in common, rather.
That's true. Yeah, they very much do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so ultimately the solution is violence, but sustained violence.
Yes, precisely.
Okay.
I mean, any way is violence. You're using, a chainsaw and then a machine that goes into the ground and digs out the root, or doesn't dig it out. It basically shreds the roots. It's very destructive.
Oh, yeah,
It's a stump grinder. It's like a giant chainsaw the size of your body. It's huge.
Cool. But even then, it will sprout back.
It will, yeah, potentially wherever there are roots that are exposed to any soil that has light on it, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But if there is no light that's hitting anything, you grind out that entire stump, you have some roots, they might be able to sprout if they can find a spot that has enough water, air, and light that they can say, oh, this is where I should sprout. I am getting the signals.
Cool.
If everything is gone, then you're probably not going to have to deal with it, but you might still. If you can squirt it, then put it in those pesticides, then the tree will die. You are killing the cambium, and you're killing it. No matter how much is there for its reserves, it will be dead.
Okay.
But if you can't do any of those, which is what the case is now, then it is violence, but it's also just sustained violence. Suck out the energy, or let it continually use its energy, then take it away. As long as you don't let it grow it back.
All right. Good advice, Case.
Yeah, there you go.
I just want to say hack and squirt in Italian is hakera e shizza.
Wow, that sounds Japanese to me. But
kind of,
good
yeah.
accent.
I didn't land quite perfectly on my Italian accent.
You did great.
Thank you so much, Gabe, for your question. And like I said, if you've got a question for us, support the podcast and become a Premium member at arbitrarypod.supercast.com. And here's a reminder, Casey, for the month of June, we are holding a t-shirt sale.
That's right. You may have heard this at the opening of the show.
That's right. 15% off of any t-shirt. And for each t-shirt you buy, even non-Cone Club members, you will receive 2 exclusive Premium Cone Club Cone stickers.
That's right.
Could I have said that in a more convoluted way?
No, I don't think so.
Wonderful.
Maybe if you did it, stickers of the Cone Club. stickers of the Cone. Stickers of the Club of the Cone.
Yes. Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah,
stickers of the Cone Club. Yes. So for the month of June, and use coupon code 2SLAPS. That's the number 2, SLAPS, to get 15% off any t-shirts and free cone stickers.
That's right. Chosen by me. Or
That's
perhaps
right.
chosen by me.
Based on vibes.
Exactly. Yeah. So give me your vibes, and then I'm going to choose some stickers. I'm going to send them out. And if you want to get more of those stickers, join up on the Cone Club, because that gives you access to the Hidden Cone Shop. You can purchase all the past cones from day 1 to yesterday.
That's right. Casey Clapp.
Hey, Crow.
It's been a time.
It has been. I'm counting the time on my watch.
That's right. You're a watchman.
I'm a watch guy now. I'm a watch guy. So, anyway.
This is like like the season of TV where like one character gets really into like biology.
Yeah,
you know? Like, that's
yeah.
the season they're really into biology.
Oh yeah, I see. Oh, they're wearing suits this time.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the season where Casey is a watchman.
Yeah, I'm a watchman, and I'm also, as the weather gets nicer, I'm going to be a short sleeve button down guy.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, like the Hawaiian shirt kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe something like that, but not really Hawaiian shirt. That's not really my style.
Maybe a floral shirt.
Yeah. I got one that has butterflies on it.
Lovely.
I had one that actually is a Hawaiian shirt, but it's one of my favorites.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's gonna be. We're gonna have a watch and a short sleeve button down shirt.
That's gonna be your look.
I'm gonna have you get another chest tattoo.
I know what it's gonna be of.
What's it gonna be?
A pocket watch on your breast pocket on your chest.
So no matter what's on my wrist, I'm always a watch guy.
That's right. And you can tell people, Casey is never late. He arrives exactly when he means to.
Exactly on time. Your watch doesn't even have hands on it, Casey.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Completely Arbitrary. Hey, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Completely Arbitrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Abies and the Mini Vandals. If you want to support this podcast and become a Treemium member, head over to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Thanks for listening.